A very good evening. A warm welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine, presented by Pick and Pay. And welcome to a very smug Dan, because I've just managed to open a bottle of the Pierre Jourdain Belle Rosé. And if you've been watching the last few shows, there was a Jeff Greer with his Villiera, and I think there was some of the Grote Pust with Lucas that we had. Basically, about a third of each of those bottles either went up my nose, into my ears, soaked the bedroom carpet where I'm currently filming, or we make some modifications to Dan Really Likes Wine Cellar. Generally the mark of a rank amateur. But this one has been opened with skill and dexterity and mastery, and basically just a stroke of good luck. But I haven't wasted any of it, which is the most important part. And that will headline our show today. The first half heads down to Franschhoek, and in just a moment, Takuan von Arnim will be joining us as we run through not just the Belle Rosé, but also the Pinot Noir Rosé. So it's a pink duet coming to us from Haute Cabriere in just a moment. And then when we're done there, we'll head off to Slanghoek, off to the Brede Kloof, where you find not just some of the nicest people in the wine world, but some of the best value wine. It's incredibly well priced for some incredibly good wine across much of the Brede Kloof. And Opstal is the estate we drop in on today, and Attie will be joining us for the second half of the show in what is a busy few weeks. Coming up on Thursday, I'm live from Ellerman House as I host the launch of the Ellerman, the red blend made by the wonderful, wonderful Erica Obermeyer. And I'll be in conversation with Manny and with Wave, the sommeliers at Ellerman House, along with a few members of the wine community. Melu Lambert will be dropping in, Christian Eads, one or two other. Steve Steinfeld, I think, coming down from Johannesburg. Next Monday, we celebrate 50 years of the Stellenbosch wine route with the three founding wineries, being Siemensig, Speer, and Delheim. So that's coming on Monday. Next Thursday, I'm coming to you live from Plaisir de Merle as that gets relaunched under the ownership of Michael and Rose Jordan. And the following week, a special show on the Wednesday as we come to you live from Boschendal and the launch of their new Cabernet Sauvignon. So plenty of travel, plenty of new wine coming up, plenty of very cool people, which is exactly what we have today. And we kick off with the first of our two very cool people on the show today, somebody who I first encountered when he had a sword in hand and a look of menace in his eye. But the menace was directed at a bottle of bubbles, which lost its neck shortly thereafter, as the master of sabrage showed just why he's been doing it since he's been about 3. Takuan von Arnim, welcome back to Dan Really Likes Wine. Lovely to have you.
Thanks very much, Dan.
I was thinking about it today while I was driving in the delight that is traffic in Johannesburg, and remembering a visit out. And I think your dad was still, your dad was definitely still there, but he brought in his son to very proudly demonstrate the art of sabrage. And it genuinely looked like you've been doing it since you were about 18 months old.
The other day someone asked me when did I start producing, or when did I feel the love for wine? I said from day one. Pretty much probably day 3 or 4 I was practicing sabrage, and started sharing the magic of Haute Cabriere and Pierre Jourdain wines.
And magic it most certainly is, and magic that we knew from your dad, you're carrying on. Tell me a little bit about that pathway. Was it always going to be picking up where your dad left off? Was there any sense of coercion that, no, you can't go off and be a professional footballer or model in Milan, you have to run the family business? Or was it something you'd always dreamt of doing?
No, I mean, it's one of those things. I was born into the family and the winery. I don't think I had much of an option. I liked the gesture of the model in Milan, but I did give the soccer a run for its money until I broke my ankle in 2019, and since then, subsequently, I've become a soccer coach. So I have to watch out with the weight a little bit, but. No, I was born right into it, right into the middle of it. And from day one, cleaning tanks, being prepped, and today proudly producing fantastic Pierre Jourdain Cape Classic, which doesn't fly around the room, but lands up in your glass, which is it's supposed to do. But I'm proud that you've actually finally getting it right, Dan.
It's certainly taking long enough. It's not that I haven't had practice, because there's not many a week that goes by in the Nickel household without some bubbles being opened at some point. But this one I've absolutely nailed, and very happily so, because it is a wine that I have very fond memories of. My earliest visit was my university days down in Cape Town, so that's going back a few years. And I remember not just the visiting to drink the wine, also having wonderful, wonderful food in your restaurant. I think, though, since the last time I was down, you've had some changes at Haute Cabriere.
Yes, definitely. We did a massive renovation in the front of the restaurant, or the entrance to our cellar. We've always wanted to be a little bit more outside, because we've got this amazing view, and customers, of course, wanted to come out from this classical cellar, which is a little bit dark, and these very refined windows, to go and enjoy the Franschhoek Valley. So at the end of October 19, it was delayed, of course. We also had a lot of rains. We were open our new cellar restaurant, which is looking absolutely amazing. And when the feet start following through again, people will be able to enjoy it. But we have had, at the moment, we open from Thursday till Sunday lunches, and there's a once a month Friday evening, and people are loving it. So slowly but surely, that trade is coming back. But Franschhoek does seem to be a bit of a sleepy hollow, because tourism, and unfortunately quite a few of the swallows haven't returned yet.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. I've had a few conversations with Franschhoek people, chatting to Gerald Holden, to Rob Armstrong, to Bear Robertson out at Anthony Rupert, and just that sense that as much as it's quite nice for those of us who visit Franschhoek, and it is nice and quiet, we feel we have it all to ourselves, it's not ideal for the town itself. And it does seem that the tough times that hit everybody are just taking a little bit longer to get over in terms of the hospitality trade in Franschhoek.
Yeah, that's so true. I must admit one thing, though, that we've had tremendous support with the wine selling and buying side. It's with a strong brand like Haute Cabriere, and being the second generation, working so hard to really just follow in the footsteps and enjoy the amazing foundation I've got. Exports have grown. The South Africans have been absolutely great. Interesting enough, even Cape Classic is doing extremely well during the time, and that's why Belrose, with the beautiful weather we got still down here at the moment in the Cape, it's a perfect wine to show this evening. These beautiful autumn evenings, amazing sunsets. The temperatures are actually still really, really great. So that's why I chose these two beautiful rosés. Before we get locked down by nature again, and we get to our winter, which I think is going to be quite a cold, wet one, let's still enjoy the light and the good weather that's out there.
Well, there we go. So just before we do get stuck into two delightful wines, help me out with an issue of nomenclature. I know the answer, but there'll be many people who don't, and it's just a little piece of history. Give us the background on Mr. Pierre Jourdan, the man whose name appears on your Cup Classique labels.
Well, Pierre Jourdan was the first French Huguenot who was granted property in 1694 when the French Huguenots came down to the Cape. And as you well know, all great champagnes are always named after a founder or someone important. Hence, we used his name, Pierre Jourdan, for our beautiful Cape Classique.
And he is duly honoured by it. And we have a bottle of it right here. This is the Belle Rosé from Pierre Jourdan. The rise of rosé, we can talk about in a second in terms of the out and out rosé, but a rosé in terms of bubbles in what is generally a fairly masculine country, South Africa. Pink wine was not something good, hard, solid rugby playing men drank very much if you go back a few years. Has that changed? Is it speaking to a far broader audience now who appreciate the wine and discard what they might have thought about the aesthetic in the past?
I think rosés themselves generally have taken a big leap forward. And my cat's just arrived, so God bless us all. largely forward. I think, everyone was also getting quite tired. If you look at classical white wines, they tend to be, everyone's scared of the terminology. I think also in South Africa, everyone was scared of the terminology dry and acidic. And rosés have really filled up a nice spectrum. When you're tired of a bit of white and you want to go onto something with a little bit more fruit and a bit more giving. And I think that's where rosés have come in so beautifully. And then let alone a beautiful Cape Classique rosé with amazing aromas of strawberries and berries with a hint of complexity. And remember that you also have to keep your ladies happy, or your so it is really come full circle.
There are plenty of people watching. Josephine Prieur, who joins us on a regular basis. Bonjour, Takuan. Glad to see you. Always a big pleasure to have the privilege to taste some nice Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, and finishing with a nice glass of Haute Cabriere. Can't wait to come back again and see the new view at your restaurant. And Ushi W. Van Zweel, anytime is perfect for bubbly. Well, I agree entirely, Ushi. And in fact, now is the perfect time for some bubbly. So here we go. This is actually Takuan. Well, I've had plenty of your bubbles. I don't think I've had the Belle Rose before. Is there a particular significance to the name?
Well, my grandmother she was one of our greatest sales force. And my father walked into the house one day and she was looking after all the glasses after a big tasting. And presented her with this wine. And it was 100% Pinot Noir. And he said, we should give it a name. And she looked at it, and with her little artistic touch, and she loved France as well and was a great chef, she said, Belle Rose, beautiful rose. And if you look at the color, it makes perfect sense. It's got an absolute amazing salmon pink to it. Just dream of or imagine beautiful, rose petals. And that's what you got. I mean, we're very blessed with the good weather we got in South Africa.
As we are with the wine, I tell you what the color is. I'm not sure this will work for your marketing because it's rather a niche analysis, Takuan, but this is exactly the color of my brother-in-law Fergal from Belfast in Northern Ireland when he's been in South Africa for about 3 hours under an African sun. That's pretty much him to a T. But this is a little more appealing than a sunburnt Fergal sherry. For people at home, you mentioned some of the strawberry. Give us just a little bit more on this particular wine.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, you got an amazing. It's got a touch. It's got a touch of Chardonnay in it, which I use to kind of just open up the wine a little bit. In South Africa, we're very blessed. In France, they would actually add red wine or red Pinot Noir to their rosés to give it color. And we have got that extra sunlight. So even though we pick it early at lower sugars, the skins are fully ripened. Hence, you get this amazing color. And then the aromas are very soft. I mean, it's just like a bunch of, as I said, strawberries or fine forest berries, red forest berries, with a little hints of caramel in the background, and follows through with a beautiful freshness. So it's a very vibrant, not too complex wine, even though she's been on the lees for 12 months. I'm focusing on freshness over here, and that's what you're getting with every single sip.
You most certainly are. Lovely dryness to it. For those of you who automatically think a rosé must be sweet and sugary and saccharine, well, this certainly isn't. And that delightful sense of balance that marks off all good wines. It's also a wine I'd love to have something to eat with. And we had a conversation last week with Vikas Human, the head sommelier at Marble, talking about the art of pairing champagne or Cape Classique with food. If I drop around to Takuan's for dinner, what food are you serving me with a glass of this?
Definitely, I think of starting off with some salmon. Definitely with some salmon, and then I would think prawns. I think seafood. I think this would go also extremely well with sushi, with a bit of tuna, a little bit of soy. You can play beautifully with this one because it refreshes the palate. Now, Dan, one very interesting thing I want to bring to you. You mentioned the word dry. South Africans get so confused and very scared when they hear dry. They always think things have to be sweet, and they just get like themselves into an absolute knot. A lot of South African wines aren't really, I mean, yes, they are analytically dry, but if you taste them, because of our beautiful sunlight. In fact, a friend of mine said, our South African Cape Classics, the difference is they've actually been kissed by a ray of sun. There is an immense amount of fruit that is not sugar. So it's not dry as we think, you're walking into the Sahara, or, you've been hanging out the window while someone's been driving at 40 kilometers per hour, and you've got this dry palate. I still remember going on a school trip where we had these old buses. Remember those old buses that had no air cons, stuffy chairs, and you had to open the bus window, and it was like you put your head into an oven with a fan on it.
I remember doing a school trip down to South Africa from my school in Zimbabwe on exactly that bus. The ones that kind of, they went downhill at about 60 kilometers an hour if half of you were out at the back pushing. That was exactly the bus. So I remember them fondly. Great point to make, Takuan, and thank you. You are being watched with great delight by Andrew Woolgar over in North Carolina. Enjoying the show, Dan, watching from sunny North Carolina. Great informative show as always. And Josephine Frieur, lucky you, Dan, to have a nice glass of rosé, especially we need it here after the bad frost we get here in France. And our thoughts are with that poor French wine industry, which has taken a bit of a hammering over the last week or so. Okay, fantastic rosé bubbles. Let's remove the bubbles but keep the rosé and move on to your Pinot Noir rosé. And if you can start off, Takuan, again, there's a lot of people who watch the show fairly early on in their wine journey, and the mechanics of the wine business are perhaps not that familiar to them. In very simple layman's terms, Pinot Noir, well, that makes red wine, surely, but this is a rosé. How does that work? Give us the explanation.
I don't know, Dan. I'll have to phone my father about that one. No, I'm joking. First of all, my heart does go out to all the French winemakers and domain owners. Winemaking is really alive. It's real, huh? So, and it's a great loss to everyone, including us, that need to be inspired and be spoiled by great wine. So I really do feel the wine industry is a big, beautiful, crazy family, and in my case, I feel like their relatives are just in a different country. So my hearts truly go out to them. Getting back to your question, how to produce a rosé. Well, for me, what was always very important is that whatever grape I'm using, and in our case, it's Pinot Noir, but it's obvious because we've only got Chardonnay and Pinot Noir on the farm, is that the wine from day one is designed in the vineyards for rosé. It's not a second thought, because for many years, rosé was basically they go out and harvest for red wine. They would then what is known as bleeding. This is when you drain the juice from the freshly crushed grapes, and they would use that and make rosé. The problem being color and alcohol. You want to enjoy a beautiful wine in our sucks off and blow your brains out. So you want something refreshing, you want something light, and also what is important is color. So this Haute Cabriere Pinot Noir Rosé 2020 is every single thought of this wine was about producing rosé. So in the vineyards, making sure that the yields are slightly higher than for red wines because you want to prevent too much tannin buildup, and then we bring them into the cellar. We have actually got a huge container where all the grapes go in. They basically sleep overnight, and we bring the temperatures down to good 5 degrees before they then move to the presses. We get partially destalked, and then they lie there for a little bit. We don't have to do much color maturation because, as I mentioned earlier, our grapes are blessed by sunlight. There's a little kiss to that, and that's the natural extraction. And then we gently press it, and then we got this amazing color. and a wine with 12.5% alcohol.
Which is absolutely perfect in so many ways. It's got a glorious nose to it. It's the kind of wine I remember when we spoke on the phone a little earlier today, and you were talking about it being an autumn wine, and it does. Often people think of rosé as being, well, this is something for summer and by the pool or by the sea. But the more I drink of it, the more I think, yes, this is going to do me very nicely through autumn.
Because it's got a little bit more substance than your white wines. We are moving, you've got a beautiful hot day, and in the evenings get slightly cooler. You want something slightly richer. This can handle a bit of cream. This can handle a bit of pasta. This can also handle definitely a bit of, even a lovely carpaccio with this and a bit of rocket would be absolutely amazing. But you're rewarded with this slightly richer character that your body needs and that you can enjoy. However, the wine has still got 12.5% alcohol, so you can enjoy a bottle or two, let alone 3 if you're von Arnim.
Yes, I've had the experience of tasting with both you and your father. It's that sort of Ken Forrester league of which the rest of us must be slightly wary. I wanted to check something with you, and it's now gone completely out of my mind. It'll come back to me in a second. Question, though, from Josephine Prieur. Takuan, can we find some of your lovely wines in Switzerland or in Paris, maybe?
Switzerland, yes, we might have 1 or 2. We have got a company called Caprio. If you can Google Caprio does an amazing job in South Africa, where when you travel around the winelands, you get a number, and then you have all the wines. Say you go to 5 different farms, you go to all the wineries, and then you got 1 delivery. But just Google it and see how we want, or write directly to Haute Cabriere, info@Haute Cabriere, and we'll definitely make a plan. I don't know if I'll be able to deliver it myself. I'd love to, but we'll definitely come up with a plan.
All right, there we go. We look forward to seeing some more wine making its way to Europe. There is plenty of this wine flying off the shelves at Pick n Pay at the moment, and not just because it is excellent wine and great value, but because this month, if you're a member of the Pick n Pay Wine Club, which I hope all of you are, at least those of you in South Africa, you are getting some great deals, including these 2 wines. The Bubbles, normally 160 Rand, down to 128 Rand, and the Rosé is down. I think it's down from 90 to 72 Rand. I think that's what it's come down to, which is crazy. But also, if you are buying any bottle of Haute Cabriere up until the 25th of April, and you swipe that smart shopper card, 5,000 Rand plus worth of Haute Cabriere will be coming your way, and it will be delivered personally by Takuan, and he will play you a song on his guitar when he gets to your front door.
I don't think I saw that, Dan.
Which leads me into a final request before we let you go, Mr. von Arnim. There is a guitar over that broad shoulder of yours. Can you take it down? And we would like, and I've checked with all of our listeners, viewers, we would like to be serenaded before we say goodbye to you, Takuan.
Okay, I have to warn you, I have to go for guitar lessons. So every time I get myself into the situation, I realize the immediate importance of me learning how to play a guitar. What I'll do is actually, so that everyone can hear, let me just show you. I'm going to get the electrical, okay?
Woohoo! The electric guitar.
And then I can put on my Marshall speaker as well.
It's a proper night of rock and roll on Dan Really Likes Wine. Takuan von Arnim, rock star in the making when he's not busy making fabulous wine, about to give us. I think this is the first musical performance we've ever had. Actually, you've got a little bit.
That was free of charge, as long as no one. But if any one of you do really have someone that you know that is really good in playing guitar, send them my way. I'll reward them in wine. how I got them, by the way, my beautiful wife actually played guitar in her youth. And so, yeah, this is our communal kind of office. And then everyone sees it and says I should play a note or two. I really promised Dan, give me a little bit more time and I will try and get a decent note together. But that was definitely much better than the last one.
Well, I can tell you that you are the second best guitar player we have ever had on Dan Really Likes Wine. And when you're ready, I will unite you on the show with the best guitar player we have. He's a reasonably regular guest, a gentleman by the name of Dave Farrell, who plays bass for Linkin Park and loves South African wine. So I think the two of you together would be fabulous.
There we go. Thanks so much for this evening.
Takuan, it's always a pleasure. I owe you a visit. You did very kindly extend an invitation after the last time you're on air. I haven't had the chance to get down yet, but as soon as I do, I look forward to coming to watch some sobriety, drink some great wine, and listen to a 3 or 4 hour guitar solo.
Fantastic.
Takuan von Arnim from down at Haute Cabriere, kicking off our show this Monday with his Belle Rose and his Pinot Noir Rosé, two lovely pinks, one effervescent, one not, both of them not just delightful, but delightfully priced, especially if you're a member of that Pick and Pay Wine Club. Remember, a 5,000 Rand prize going to somebody. You're going to win 5 grand worth of Haute Cabriere wine simply by buying a bottle of Haute Cabriere at Pick and Pay and swiping that smart shopper card. It is all too easy, and it runs until the 25th of April. Okay, so that is our visit to Franschhoek done. We now head out to a slightly different part of the wine-making world. Much like Franschhoek, it's full of lovely people who've always got plenty of time for wine lovers and are always happy to engage in a little conversation over a glass or two. It is the Brede Kloof. It's a very close-knit wine-making community full of fabulous people like Attie Louw from Opstal. Attie, welcome for the very first time to Dan Really Likes Wine.
How's it, Dan?
I have to start with an apology. I feel I've let down the viewers of Dan Really Likes Wine by not having you on the show yet. So a very belated welcome, but lovely to have you on and join us for the first time.
Hi, Dan. It's stuttering a hell of a lot on my side. It's kind of like the harvest at the moment. Everything is stuttering and not as clear as I would wish. I don't know if my feed is coming through okay. Ronaldo, I'll check for your comments in the chat room. But it's nice to be on, Dan. I've followed you and enjoyed your wit and knowledge and punting of the wine industry for a good time now. So fun to be on. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure, and I can hear you perfectly. You're coming through delightfully, so far more important that you come through well than I do, so glad to hear that. Give us a little bit of a feel for this Brede Kloof community, because every time I've either visited or I've seen you guys when you've done a Brede Kloof gathering up here in Johannesburg, it just always seems like you're kind of one big family. You support each other, you work together. You just seem to be such a close-knit group.
I'm trying to pick up on key words. Dan, it must be my connection. Apologies for that. But you mentioned something about a family, and you're having had the opportunity to meet us and the winemakers from the Brede Kloof a couple of years back. It's not a one big happy family. It's actually a small happy family, because when the winemakers from the Brede Kloof need to get around, get together to discuss something or make a call or make a decision of some sorts, we don't have to book the town hall. It's 14 winemakers that need to get together, and a lot of times it's in a social environment. So it's actually quite we're quite fortunate in that regard, that we can be mobile and quick to make decisions. That doesn't mean that we've made we've moved quickly in the past. I think Brede Kloof I always jokingly say we're from ons is aan die kant die berg. We're from the other side of the mountain. Things don't travel so quickly to us as maybe to other parts, and back the same way. So we've been maybe a bit late in arriving on the scene, and we're still not yet on the scene in full force, but we are gaining momentum, and I think it's coming from a very strong base and a strong foundation, and so I'm not fazed about that. I'm not intimidated by the fact that the Breede Kloof is one of the lesser known wine regions in South Africa, which it is. We have to acknowledge that. But like I said, I think we've got a strong foundation, and making a few better decisions and right calls moving forward, and focusing on the right stuff, I think is important for us, and will take us a long way in becoming big noisemakers on the scene, almost like Takuan's electrical guitar. Make some noise. We need to make some more noise.
I think you're probably playing yourselves down a little, though, because yes, you're not a Stellenbosch or a Paarl or one of the big areas, but your wine does speak volumes what you're able to do, and it has for some time now. And in particular, your Chenin Blanc, and I know it is the grape that you champion. It's the grape you are so proud of. Why is it, do you feel, that this Breede Kloof area has managed to find such collective success with Chenin Blanc?
Well, I think Chenin spoke to us in a big way, Dan. We just didn't listen well enough for a long time. I think Chenin Blanc has proven to be one of those varieties that works in many different regions in South Africa, and we're not saying that this is the best region for it by no means. We love and appreciate the stuff from the Voorpaardenberg and the Skurfberg and the Citrusdal stuff, and the wines made from the Bottlerij hills, and what guys like Lucas conjure up from nice Chenin vineyards in Paarl. There's plenty to go around, but I think we have just sat up and take notice on what the Chenins give us in our valley, and trying to focus on that. We've always had purity of fruit in most varieties, especially white varieties that we work with and that we plant and that we make wine from. We're 70% of our plantings in this region is white, and I think it's a great farmer's grape, Chenin Blanc. It's a variety and a vineyard that the farmer likes working with. It's ended up when I started out back in 2009, 10, 11, we made Chenin in a very commercial way, and with not a lot of extra fuss and trouble and attention. It showed up to be the better wine, year in, year out. And I think that took us back to, it's shouting at us. So with a little bit more attention and focus and a little bit more craft, I think we had something to really work with. And, the winemakers were willing to, we were all willing to learn and to listen from one another and to one another. And that's helped a hell of a lot. There's no egos here. There's no, we don't see each other as competition. We easily call up one another and share ideas, share strategies on what we think we should do. We do vineyard visits, and that's why I said the collaboration, in many ways, giving a little bit of structure to a collaboration and to a group of winemaking friends, has helped a hell of a, for us to I think come up with a lot over the last 5 years, especially.
And anybody who's tried the wine from the area, I think will agree with that fully. Just before we jump into this first Chenin, in as much as you can, if somebody touched down from around the world, Andrew sends somebody from North Carolina, or Josephine sends a friend over from France, and they said to you, Attie, what sets apart a Brie de Clough Chenin Blanc in terms of its style? Is there something that captures the essence of what you guys do together in terms of your approach to Chenin and the resulting wine?
Yeah, good question. It's one we get often. I think if they touch down in Cape Town, they're going to get a couple of frowns when people ask them where's Slanghoek. That's first of all, where's the Brie de Clough? I always start. If someone knows where Slanghoek is, and if they don't know, I try Rosenville. It's the town 10 kilometers from our farm. It's the first town as you come through the De Toitskloof Mountains, and still then people don't know Rosenville, and then most often they're not. Houdini Spa gets them orientated, and so Houdini Spa is the hot springs in our valley close to us. In terms of style, Dan, that fruit purity, I think, wines. There's not a lot of the wines are clean, and that's almost a given. Clean fruit, pure fruit flavors that's presented on the nose and on the palate, and then it's just a question of being smart in the winery. From the right vineyards, from grapes from the right vineyards, to get some texture and concentration on the palate, because there's not really any granite in our soils. We've got some nice clay and a bit of shale on the foothills of the mountains, which we're surrounded with. On the valley floors, it's mostly sandstone, and so I like to, if I talk for myself, I like to play with some skin contact, skin fermented Chenin in the winery to add a bit of texture, to almost compensate for what granite will give you in terms of mid palate and texture. So we have to be clever in the winery and experiment a bit, and over time that's showed up for me to be the common thread running through the wines.
I remember with great fondness, I think it was DW 1113, we had a gathering of the Brie de Clough gang under the auspices of Pete Goff Wood, and it was such a great introduction to what you guys do as a whole. Let's take that introduction to everybody watching today and kick off with the first of not one but two Chenin Blancs. Ina Smith cartwheeling around the room with extra Chenin Blanc being celebrated. This is the first one. This is the estate Chenin Blanc. Am I right in thinking, Attie, there's been a change in the labeling fairly recently?
Yeah, it's about 2017 was the first vintage under this label, Dan. It was also the first vintage of this wine. The Carl Everson Chenin was the wine that really got my foot in the door and got me a seat around the table, when Chenin came up in a conversation. So for that, we're really thankful. This Chenin was almost of what we have on the farm and what we have to offer. And so the estate range, aim of that range, and we only have 3 wines in that range, is drinkability. I mean, that's basically what my winemaking philosophy is built around. In our region, the best compliment you can give a winemaker or a grower from a certain winery is, "Hierdie wyn drink lekker." This wine drinks well, and I think that's sometimes underrated. That compliment for a wine, and so I've worked a hell of a lot in making wines go down quicker and quicker, and not for the wine to be in because of that. And so this Chenin is priced at about 115 Rand retail, 115. It's supposed to be a you know, 5-6 bottles at a lunch corporate meeting in a restaurant, and not feel too bad about it. It's not going to break the bank. it shows what we are and what we have on the Shannon. And our aim is to show our estate in our ranges. We only have estate wines. We only make one farm on our property that's been in our family for many generations. So why go and try and hand out the Polaroid picture of what Slanghoek looks like?
I think your wine's as good as a Polaroid picture. I like the thought of the 6 bottles over lunch. I'm gathering that's 2 people that you're referring to. So that does sound like an excellent lunch, Attie. I fully endorse that. We've got the 2. I think it makes sense to drink time. The estate and then the Carl Everson. Just before we do try them, and I'm holding off, Carl Everson, give us a history lesson. We got the Pierre Jourdain lesson from Takuan a little earlier. Who was or is Mr. Everson?
I didn't get all of that, but there's something history lesson. I'm not big lessons and reciting the about page of the website, Dan. But I think we're a family wine estate. We have 3rd generation workers on the farm. We've got permanently living on the farm and working for us and with us. Guys that I grew up playing soccer with, age 5, 6, 7, are now working with me in the business. And we tell them about Opstal. We more often than not these days get the question of organic and bio of those certifications. We are farmers for the future, and we, being a 7th generation property and family owned.
Oh, Attie, we're just struggling a little there with your reception, so we'll jump back to me for a second. And while we do that, Attie, if I can just get you to refresh quickly, just to make sure that we don't miss out on anything important. While Attie does refresh quickly, just a couple of messages coming through. Reginald Peckler out at Cheetah Plains is with us so often. I like the labeling design, not to mention what's inside Die Stirn, aka Chenin Blanc. Oh, you got 2 great examples of Die Stirn here, Reginald. Josephine Prieur must come and visit you, Attie, and taste your Chenin. I highly recommend that, Josephine. It will be a trip well rewarded. And Ina Smith, just to make sure she is watching. Well, of course, she is the Queen of Chenin Blanc in South Africa. Of course, I'm here today. Will not miss a session and tasting with Attie, such a mentor for his fellow winemakers of the Breede Kloof makers. Have so much respect for him. So there we go. Let's see. I think let's just check. Attie, are you successfully back with us there? No, just still coming in. Okay, well, while we wait for Attie to return, our apologies for that. Technology can sometimes bedevil even the best of intentions. A reminder that this Thursday, I will be at Ellerman House for the launch of the Ellerman, made by the quite brilliant Erica Obermeyer. So that's coming up on Thursday. Next Thursday, live from Plaisir de Mole with the Jordans as we celebrate the addition to their burgeoning wine empire on the back of Bartney. And the following week, we'll be coming to you live from Boschendal. We've got some really cool stuff coming up. But right now, we can go live back to Slanghoek, where Attie has got the Rawsonville dial-up raring to go again. Attie, the question I had asked, you gave us some great family history, but the other part of the history I was really interested in finding out about was who is or was Carl Everson.
Sorry, Dan, didn't get that last one. Can you repeat? It seems as though it's fine now.
Okay, yeah, just wanted to find out from you, Attie, as part of that history lesson, who was or is Carl Everson? No, I think we are struggling, unfortunately, with Attie at the moment. Real pity.
Is it better now, Dan?
Let's see. Let's give one more try. Takuan's threatening to come back and play his guitar. So there we go. Have you got me now, Attie?
Yeah. Well, I'll jump off. Yeah, I've got you clear now. To get the bridge and the second verse from Takuan on that one. It was quite a performance to follow, Dan. Not only the wines, you put me up after a live guitar performance. That was a bit intimidating.
The Jimi Hendrix of Haute Cabriere. Let's see if we can finally get this one through. The history lesson. I was wondering who was or is Carl Everson? It seems every time I mention the name Carl Everson, we lose reception. I'll give it one last try there, Attie. Carl Everson, who is he? Who was he?
Carl Everson was my great-grandfather, Dan. So he was the fourth generation on the farm. And my dad actually started the label, 25 years ago for our Dutch importers. And the label was in the early 2000s. And, I decided to revive that label when we started to produce these spontaneous fermented barrel-aged Chenin from Old Vineyard. So that's the history. That's all the history I'm going to give you for now.
All right. Well, we'll take that. That is plenty of history for one show. Let's talk wine. We've got two here. We've got the Estate Chenin. We've got the Carl Everson. If you will, give us an introduction to the both and how they differentiate and what puts the grapes into one bottle and the grapes into another.
Well, the Estate Chenin, that was probably when I got cut off earlier. The Estate Chenin is basically that's the gateway drug, to get to the serious stuff. The Carl Vineyard wine. It's made from a vineyard that was planted in 1982. The Estate Chenin is made from a vineyard 5 meters above sea level. It's northwesterly facing slopes, and it's the first vineyard that we harvest. Seems like half a year ago when we harvested this vineyard for the 2021 vintage. But it's clone SN24, so you naturally get a nice small berry, highly concentrated. It's unirrigated vineyards planted up against the mountain. We've got, with the high rainfall that we have in this valley, which is one of the big misconceptions or that people have about the Slanghoek and the Breede Kloof. It's not Karoo bush. On this side, we get about 1,650 millimeters of rain. What we got in 2020. Our average rainfall is about 1,350 over a 10-15 year period, and so these vineyards offer us concentration from the get-go, and they go to 50% of it goes to 3,000 liter foudre, and the other half is in a combination of concrete and stainless. And it's only for 6 months, so we normally bottle this around September to have it out in the market end of October, start of November. That's the 2020 vintage that we're drinking now. The 2019 Carl Everson Chenin, on the other hand, we just started to sell now in March, and that's wine where it's all about the majority of the time in the winery on its gross lease in 400 and 500 liter barrels, older barrels, only to get the micro oxygenation in the going for the time that's spent in barrel, and for the oak to add some depth and support to the structure of the wine. But we want the typical quince and pear and white peach flavors that's associated with that vineyard to come through year on year.
It's fascinating when you're drinking two wines that it's not the difference between a red and a white, but they are markedly different in terms of two Chenin Blancs, and it's great appreciating them side by side. And obviously the Carl Everson is the flagship, but there are definitely people who have a certain leaning to one rather than the other, and that all speaks to taste. But both just great illustrations of what the Breda Club is capable of when it comes to Chenin Blanc. But that is not all you are capable of, Attie Louw. Before we let you go, I have poured myself just a little taste of your Carl Everson Red. It's not purely a Chenin, who your great-grandfather gets celebrated with, but there is also this Cape blend, which naturally suggests there's a healthy streak of pinotage running through it. Introduce us to this particular wine, and it's one, if I'm not mistaken, Attie Louw, that's starting to become a bit of a favorite from the Opstal range.
Yeah, I've made no I've made no effort in wines are white wines. The red wines have always been a head scratcher for me. You can see how much I'm really scratched about these red wines over the 10-year period that I've been here in the winery. But I think, Dan, it's a Cape blend. I am a fan of pinotage made in the Cinsault Pinot Noir. So this wine has got 30% of pinotage, and it's only adding that juiciness and red fruit vibrancy to this blend, as opposed to the more extracted and concentrated pinotages that you do get in our industry as well. And then the rest of it is Cabernet Sauvignon Carignan, and with a drop of Cinsault in there. I worked in the south of France back in 2007 and fell in love with Carignan and Cinsault, and the truth is actually that I just get very bad hangovers from big red wines, and so the juicy lighter style reds are best suited for me and for my body and for my head the following morning. And so I'm going to make red wines that I also enjoy drinking. And so this Cape blend is sitting at about 13.7% alcohol. The cab is the one that gives us the structure and the backbone to the wine, but then the Carignan and Cinsault and especially the pinotage is there for the juiciness and the drinkability. And why I say I say those things, and it shouldn't be taken as being inferior, because it's got those elements to it. This wine got awarded Platter 5-star last year, or in the 2021 guide, and it's been flying. It's I think it's a good introduction to pinotage in a sense, as shown in the blend. And I'm just like I said, a fan of varieties like Carignan and Cinsault. We're planting some Grenache Noir this year, Bushvine Grenache Noir. We're planting at the farm, and so in 20 years' time, when the following generation comes through, or whoever, then there would be some nice Grenache to go around with as well. I think that's the direction that I envision us taking, at least for Slanghoek Valley.
Like it's a direction that I am very happy you're heading in, because based on I think the moment you see it's got pinotage and Cabernet Sauvignon, and you're immediately thinking, well, it's going to be a bit chunkier. It's going to have a bit more meat on it. But that Cinsault, that Carignan is perhaps the giveaway. And the style of pinotage we're seeing so much more of now, which is that lighter style, is definitely reflected in this. And it's a perfect note on which to wrap up the conversation with you. Attie, thank you for the time. Some terrific wine and for sharing your love of Shannon in particular and wine in general with us. And we look forward to having you back on the show again soon and watching the journey continue.
Thanks, Dan. Sorry for the bad connection. Like I said, in Slanghoek, between the mountains, it's a struggle always. I was on the phone with the Rawsonville service provider earlier today, but it didn't seem to help. Apologies to you and the viewers.
Not at all, not at all. It's been a delight having you on. In fact, you can almost hear in the background one of Attie's employees on a bicycle just powering his dial-up as he makes its way through the evening. Attie Louw from Opstal, one of the brilliant makers. Attie, thank you very much indeed. And that wraps us up for another evening on Dan Really Likes Wine. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being a member of the Pick and Pay Wine Club if you are. If you're not, a very simple reminder to go and join that club. Just send your Smart Shopper number to 36775 and that gets you 3 times the Smart Shopper points on every single bottle of wine you buy. 20% off 10 great wines every single month. There are also deals on cases, deals on magnums, and great competitions, including this one at the moment. Any bottle of Haute Cabriere, just one, although you're probably going to want to buy more, that you purchase between now and the 25th of April, swiping your Smart Shopper card as a member of the wine club, you're going to draw over 5,000 Rand worth of Haute Cabriere wine could be coming your way. Terrific prize and another great reason to be part of that wine club. Remember, on Thursday, live from Element House with Wave, Manny, Maylou Lambert, Christian Eade, Steve Steinfeld, as we launch it, The Element, the brilliant red blend made by Erica Obermeyer. Next Monday, we celebrate the history of Stellenbosch wine routes, 50 years old this weekend. We'll be joined by Delhan, by Simon Sich, and by Spear. Next Thursday, live with the Jordans at Plaisir de Merle, as Michael and Rose take ownership of a South African estate full of history and full of great South African wine. It's been another great evening with Dan Really Likes Wine. Huge thank you to Takuan von Arnim and his team at Haute Cabriere, and to Attie Louw at Opstal for joining me this evening. And look out what is coming up on Dan Really Likes Wine this week. Sure, I'll have to check and let you know. There will be a brand new episode coming up tomorrow. And yeah, look out for that one as well. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for drinking South African wine. Yes, tomorrow we're at Klein Constantia. Thank you, Ronaldo. Klein Constantia. Matthew Day takes us through some Sauvignon Blanc in the company of Stuart Taylor, who is the least suitable candidate I could find to go wine tasting with. Have a great week. Keep drinking sporting South African wine. Get great wine at Pick and Pay. And we'll see you back live on Thursday. Goodbye.